Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the GB3 Podcast. I am one half of your dynamic duo, the Reel Geno Reynolds.
And I am Bill, HeiseNerd Fields. Welcome to the podcast tonight, guys. The main topic of tonight is going to be Star Wars. We're going to talk about The Last Jedi, and we're going to kind of talk about Star Wars in general post the Disney acquisition and what our thoughts are on that. So you're sounding lovely tonight, Geno.
Oh yeah, I've been fighting the crud for about a week. I'm so behind on my work, it's not even funny. Granted, I'm getting caught up, but yeah, I you were making the joke before we started recording. This is the Batman episode.
Yes.
I like to think I'm sounding a little better than Christian Bale right now ever did in the Nolan movies. But we're gonna push as far as we can go. And like I said on my last Get on the Mic podcast, if this didn't work, you're just not gonna hear it because we won't release it. So
that's right. Yes, it's the post ate a pack of cigarettes podcast today.
Well, I'm on the medication, so I can't remember all the jokes I talked about before we started recording. But what did I say? Something along the lines of my cigarettes, and smoking cigarettes right now.
Yes. All right, so, starting off, we always kind of have our kind of news story stuff to talk about, so I thought we'll go ahead and throw out a couple stories that we thought were noticeable to talk about, and Geno, you're going to start us off this week.
Yeah, since I know your topic is movie stuff, I went the gaming route. Just to kind of throw one back at you.
Yes.
One thing that I like to watch on YouTube, one of my guilty pleasures, is watching AGDQ, which is Awesome Games Done Quick, and then SGDQ, which is Summer Games Done Quick. What that is, it's a bunch of speedrunners that get together and play video games and break records and things and do all sorts of glitch tricks and whatever else they want to do for charity for Doctors Without Borders. Ever since they've started, though, here and there's been little controversies here and there. The first big one was people were claiming that the group that runs this Games Done Quick were not giving a lot of money to Doctors Without Borders, like they were taking a huge chunk of money from all the donations. And that turned out to be BS. Basically, the way it works is the company gets paid by Doctors Without Borders before the event, and then the only money they make after that is from selling tickets to the people that come in to watch this stuff. Every donation they make at the show or matches and all that stuff that they do, it goes to Doctors Without Borders. And last year alone, they raised $2.26 million for charity,
which is awesome.
Yeah, it's a really cool event. It's really fun to watch. I sat my son down to watch it with me. He was like, "What are you watching?" "Oh, you're watching someone play a video game? Cool." And so he sits down, and then I was watching a Sonic run, and Sonic glitches through a wall, and he about lost his mind.
Right.
And it was great just to watch his reaction. And he's like, "He just went through the wall, Dad." And it's like, "Yeah, I got you now. You're gonna watch this with me." What I want to talk about, though, is one of the big problems that they've had, and this has been a big problem with video games in general when it as it attains to like playing online with people, is bullying. With these events, there's been funny bullying, which I believe it was last year, the year before, someone was running Mirror's Edge, and it was a no glitch run, but the person was doing quote unquote not glitches, and they were definitely glitches. So the person on the couch behind him, who was another world record runner of the game, was making taking pot shots at the guy, running the game, saying, "Oh, but this is a glitch, son. Oh, it's not a glitch. It's fine." Well, you're manipulating the game. It's a glitch, right? There's so many different rules and everything,
right?
But the bullying that I'm talking about is there's different runners that do these, and from all sorts of corners of things like Twitch and YouTube streams and everything. There was one named Private Cinnamon Bun who during a live stream, see, there's rules about what you can and cannot do on these live streams.
Right. Keep it unpolitical, right?
Unpolitical, unreligious. But that's if you're playing the game or on the gaming couch right behind, because a lot of times the person playing is focusing on the game, so they have someone sitting behind them explaining, well, this is the tricks they're doing or whatever, so the person can concentrate on the game. I mean, I just watched a person today play Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and Super Punch-Out at the same time.
It's insane.
And he beat them both, but he had someone behind him kind of explaining anything, and this guy had to focus on two different games. But this Private Cinnamon Bun wore the Make America Great Again hat, or apparently it was supposed to be. He somehow proved it wasn't, even though it ended up being that. And then another gamer, Cyber Demon 531, wore the same hat, and it turned out it was the same hat. And I guess they were, in on it together to stir the pot or whatever. And apparently these two gamers have been trouble before, have been trouble online. Private Cinnamon Bun made comments about a school shooting on a tweet. Cyber Demon had a subreddit forum obsessing over a speedrunner that came out as transgender. And then this transgender gamer has been the subject of harassment ever since, and has since stopped doing speed runs, essentially giving up their passion and their love because they've been bullied. And apparently these two gamers have been banned, but it wasn't for that. It was for other little things here and there. And what I'm wondering is this company doing enough for this charity? Because, I mean, this is such a good charity, but I feel like they're not doing enough to keep this element out. That being said, as we know from playing Xbox Live and shooting down the skilled player by chance and getting lucky once and then get lambasted with racist and sexist remarks over your headphones, because you got lucky once and you killed them, we know that this is a problem already.
Right. There's a reason why I stopped playing multiplayer online, and that's just it. There's just way too much horrible speak that goes on online games, and I just found myself becoming a more angry person just by doing it too, and I didn't want to become that anymore, so I stood away from it. I just find a more enjoyable experience either doing some local multiplayer with a friend, or my oldest son, and we could mess with each other and kind of throw pot shots at each other, stuff like that. And that's a whole different situation. But I mean, when it comes to this, I mean, in gaming in general, it seems to me like there's just too many people out there that are putting out their agenda out there, and they're gonna get their comeuppance in the end. I mean, I look back to this, and then I also look back to I don't know if you're familiar with the YouTuber JonTron. He made a bunch of comments, like kind of pro-Trump and racist and sexist comments, and ended up, he got blasted for that and lost a lot of sponsorship and everything, and he's kind of become the laughing stock now. So,
well, I mean, yeah, I used to watch his stuff. It's been a while. I know, just the other day he started releasing some stuff again. Because I remember watching his Star Wars video game series is, I think, the thing I remember.
Right, that was Disney sponsored and everything, and then that fell apart because of it. I'm pretty sure it was Disney sanctioned or something. So he made a lot.
He made this just seems to be a problem that it won't go away. I mean, it's just sad that you've got these people trying to do something good, and then just like any other thing, like YouTube, and I can't remember what is it Jake Paul or whoever just did the.
I know what you're talking about.
It's the D-bag that did the Suicide Forest video. Right. I haven't seen it. I heard about it. I've seen many movies about the Suicide Forest. I knew exactly what they were talking about, and it just makes me sick that his apology got 13 million views, which means he made money off of it. But it's just you've got as I don't know, I can't remember how familiar you are with wrestling, but Eric Bischoff, who was big in the rise of the WCW in the 90s and early 2000s, said controversy creates cash.
Oh yeah,
and that's exactly what's going on here. I mean, and when I think last time we talked about PewDiePie doing stupid stuff, and
Right.
if they think they can get away with anything, if they say stupid stuff, people are going to watch. If they do stupid stuff, people are going to watch. And that's exactly what I think this is happening here too, is that these guys will. I mean, they may not even give two craps about Donald Trump, and they wear that hat just because they know it's going to get people talking about him.
Oh yeah.
And then people are going to subscribe to him.
Yep.
And I just hate seeing, if it's on YouTube, which is for personal gain, that's YouTube's problem. But
yeah,
when
this is a charity.
It's a charity that, I mean, has made, millions of dollars, for Doctors Without Borders. And the fact that the same idiots that, are trying to get popular and famous on YouTube and Twitch or whatever are doing the same crap to a charity. And it just, and plus you lose a lot of entertainment value because, if they're bullying, someone that's gay or transgender or a different color than them or whatever, or there was one instance where one of them put out a tweet talking about one of the people that banned them, and then the guy's followers released this guy's personal information online, which, if I'm not mistaken, that's called doxing. I don't know much about that. So I mean, it just leads to more problems. And it's like, you lose entertainment value because the ones that want to do good things for charity just won't show up because they don't want to get bullied. So that leads to the them having to rely on the problem people, to may or may not do something stupid on a live stream. And, for me, that someone that enjoys just watching this stuff and wants for my kids to be able to enjoy it, I can't imagine this being the future of it. Games Done Quick, the company, really needs to step in and do something about it.
Oh, I would imagine they do. Yeah. I mean, that being said, I think that I don't know. I know that the newest one had started just recently, I think this month or something. And
it just got over.
And there hasn't been anything really going on this year, so maybe they finally, got a tight rein on some of the bull crap.
As of right now, the biggest controversy I've seen was, I guess, some of the donations they were posting on their crawl were from last year. So someone, Control-C, Control-V'd the wrong thing.
Yeah, maybe.
So that's not terrible, but it just, I haven't noticed anything yet. That being said, I haven't watched a ton of the stuff this year. So hopefully they've cleaned it up. But just online gaming in general plays into this. Granted, like I said, if it's something on YouTube or on Xbox Live or whatever, that's their problem. I don't have to do that. But say if I want to support this charity, then it's pretty sad that I have to be careful with what I watch or show my kids, because they just might say something stupid or offensive that I'm gonna have to explain to my kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess just my closing thought on is just if you want to get big on doing this or get somewhere with it, let your ability as a gamer, or maybe just your ability as a content creator on YouTube, speak for you, instead of having to do stupid crap to be able to get views. I mean, there's plenty of people out there that make content that do a good job with it, and they could do it humorously. I mean, let's look at some of the classics like James Rolfe. I mean, the man was funny, and he made millions of views doing it, not by having to do such controversial stuff. So
yeah, I definitely agree with that, and I like the fact that he still isn't really doing anything. He's still doing things that I still enjoy to this day for the most part, which he could have went the way of some of these other people but didn't. So I'm happy guys like him are still out there doing good stuff that we can enjoy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I guess on my topic, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the Golden Globes. I watched those, not last Sunday, but the Sunday before. I know you hadn't, Gino, because, you have your feelings about award shows, and we've talked about that.
I understand people's love for watching the award shows. I understand the parties. I understand the get-togethers. I understand the let's play the guessing game. I'm cool with all that stuff. It's we talked about this last week.
We know.
It's the Globes themselves or the award shows themselves.
Yeah.
But go on.
No, you're good, man. So I mean, it wasn't a super eventful Golden Globes, but I mean, we did have, I guess, the biggest theme of the day really had to do with, I mean, it's on the heels of the whole, Me Too movement. And, I mean, it started off with some pretty good pot shots from Seth Meyers in his monologue at the beginning. I enjoyed some of the quotes like that, Weinstein will be back in 20 years when he becomes the first person ever booed during the memoriam. Things like that. And I was happy to hear they're doing another season of House of Cards. Is Christopher Plummer available for that too?
Nice.
But, it's some pretty good stuff there. But I guess the biggest, I mean, it really took off when Oprah stood up and got the DeMille Award and gave her speech. And, she had a lot to say about that and everything. And, a lot of people had stuff to say about that afterwards. I know, like, apparently the singer or musician Seal had come on and said that, no, she knew about Weinstein all along, and was okay with it until now. But that's, we can talk about that in a sec. But, and there's a lot of people thinking that, she should start going into politics too, which I feel like you might be jumping the gun again there. She's a really good speaker, don't get me wrong, but it really just has to know, like, where is she going to stand, as far as politics go before we start making things like that. And then one of the biggest things that I took out of the whole female empowerment thing, and I think you had something to add to this too, but I learned, because they had mentioned it, that Streisand won the Best Director Globe in 1986, and she was the last female to get that award. And there was kind of a pot shot that was taken by one of the presenters for that award that same night, right after Oprah had spoken, because I had to follow her, which was funny because it was like Ron Howard and Natalie Portman. And I think you wanted to mention about how that worked.
Yeah, well, Natalie Portman's been very outspoken about female directors for a long time, and I'm just gonna say this first, so so people don't think, well, you're a dude and you're sexist. No, I want good movies. I want good directors. I don't care, man, woman, whatever. I just want good movies. So now I think that may play into the probably now former politics of, say, the Golden Globes and the Oscars. That, if it's not, if it's going to be, some women added to the voting or whatever, that's going to help. See, but that's just it for me. That's all political, because it is going to be playing into, I'm voting for her because she's a woman. I don't want to see that, because like Guillermo del Toro, The Shape of Water, one of my favorite movies of last year. I'm still working on my best of. It's made the final 5. It's a fantastic movie, and I think he deserved every bit of credit he got and then some. But that being said, I was going through all the movies that I saw last year and a couple this year that were on that list, because, some don't come out till the beginning of the year. And I saw 6 movies that might possibly end up in a Best Director category, even though some probably wouldn't have a chance because, like think of Patty Jenkins for Wonder Woman. That's not going to get a Best Director.
No, of course not.
Even though it is a fantastic movie, probably the best of the DC movies so far by a long shot. The ones that I might put on the Best Directors list was Nikki Caro for The Zookeeper's Wife. That was a fantastic movie. I just saw Lady Bird today. I don't think I would have put it on the best movie list, but the direction itself was really good. So I could see Greta Gerwig getting put on there.
Right.
Valerie Faris, who co-directed Battle of the Sexes with Jonathan Dayton, I could see them being put on there. And the one that really shocked me, though, and I know this is the goat. This is what drives me nuts is, okay, whenever, like, especially the Oscars, whenever they want to push a female director, it's always who? Catherine Bigelow, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not saying she doesn't deserve it. I'm honestly surprised she didn't even get considered this year. Detroit was a crazy movie, and it would have to be a crazy movie to direct. You know, like I said, I hate throwing that name out there because, well, they always throw it out there.
It is.
But and maybe that's why they didn't, because they probably didn't want people to think, it's Catherine Bigelow again, right?
Yeah.
We need new blood out there.
Well, I'm surprised she didn't win for The Hurt Locker, or at least like did she get nominated for that at least?
Without my notes in front of me, I can't remember because
right.
I can't remember if that was that Best Picture that year, if I'm not mistaken. See, that's what whole thing drives me nuts with those award shows, because, if they've got to make one up to somebody, then, those that had the better movie, lose out. As much as we talked about this, as much as I love Lord of the Rings, Return of the King was not the best movie that year.
Right. We know that had to do with just like, let's give the whole project an Oscar at the end.
And see, that's just it. I see Natalie Portman's argument. It can't just be about, because they're women. The best person, if they're going to do these award shows, the best person should get the nod. But like I said, I'm hoping that by what they've done this year, at least the women that did make great films like last year, like Catherine Bigelow and Valerie Faris and Nikki Caro, will at least get a more of a look.
Right.
Because those films deserved a lot of recognition. A lot of people crapped on The Zookeeper's Wife. It made my top 10.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a fantastic movie. Everyone was like, well, we've already seen the World War II stuff. It's World War II, boo-hoo. We've seen that thousands of times. It was a great movie. So, I would give her consideration. I don't remember what the 5 were other than The Shape of Water. I don't have the list in front of me, but would I replace some with those movies? Maybe. But, I mean, I just want to see the best movies get recognized for being the best movies. Same thing with directors, actors, whatever. And, it just can't be a blanket statement. That being said, it should all be fair. Women should get the same attention and fanfare and money and everything else that dudes do. And we don't really have time to talk about it now, but, the whole thing about Mark Wahlberg and Michelle Williams for the reshoots of All the Money in the World, something I'm going to be covering on Get on the Mic. I have my take on that, too. I don't think it's as black and white as everyone says, but there is an issue about it that you can tell who's in it for the art and who's in it for the money. So yeah, everyone should get a fair shake. I know Natalie Portman's been on a warpath ever since, I believe, I can't remember if it's the director of Thor 2 or Thor 3, was supposed to be, I think was supposed to be Patty Jenkins, and then she went to do Wonder Woman. I can't remember if it was Thor 2 or Thor 3 that she either got fired or left the project, and Natalie Portman was just PO'd about it. And it's like, I get it, but it can't just be because she's a woman.
Right.
That being said, I do agree everyone should get a fair shake in everything when it comes to any of this stuff.
Right. I guess final thought I would say is, I mean, there obviously is a disconnect to me. Like, you can't really go 31 years and not have a female win it, or it seems like that just seems like a disconnect to me. But you also have to take into consideration there are a lot fewer female directors too. So I mean, you're got to have a smaller pot to pick from, so to speak. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. But I mean, as long as they maybe put some stuff in place like they said they're going to, I think that'll probably help us out.
Well, that is the nature of the beast in Hollywood. We're just finding out all the stories about how much it's a boys' club. Granted, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop on Me Too. I mean, Terry Crews come out and said a woman molested him. People laughed at him, and it's you want to laugh, but
it could happen.
But he seems like the most honest dude ever. So the dude looks like a tank, but it doesn't mean
you know what
someone powerful can't take advantage of him.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be physical at all, and there could be a lot of emotional abuse that even men have taken because of people that are above them.
See, I just feel like right now, granted, like I said, I'm happy that women are getting their day to speak out.
Absolutely.
But we have to flush the whole system, I guess, not just the one pipe. It's got to be on both sides. Everyone should be equal. It can't just be now we get it because we're women. Like I said, I'm cool with you getting a fair shake, but don't act like it's all entitled. Needs to be you work hard, you get the job, you get the same pay. Things like that. You get the same opportunities, you get the same this, you get the same that.
Yep.
Not just because you're a woman. Same thing as all that just because you're a man, the way it's kind of seems like it's been.
Yep.
So, I'm happy to see there's a shift. They just need to be careful with that shift.
Just find that nice neutral zone. That's what we got to do. So.
Yeah.
All right. I think it's time to move on to the topic of the night. We're going to start talking about some Star Wars, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, let's lighten it up a little bit.
A little bit. Well, maybe. We are talking about The Last Jedi here, so we might be having some trouble.
Well, at least it'll be the fandom geek boy lightening up versus not talking about the stuff we just talked about.
Right, absolutely. All right, so we're gonna kind of go with the same format as we did with the Nostalgia Overload. I think this kind of works the way we've been doing it. So we're gonna try to talk about some things that we felt worked for The Last Jedi, maybe some things that we each kind of thought didn't work, and then maybe some different stuff that might not necessarily say worked or didn't work, but is worth noting and talking about. So I thought we'd start off talking about as far as what worked. And some people thought that this didn't, but to me, I felt like that the humor that was put into this film, I feel like it worked. I know a lot of people started griping just immediately about what, with Poe and his little bit with Hux there at the beginning. And I'm like, I don't know. I thought that this was pretty funny. I think Poe Dameron's a great character. I think they underutilize him a little bit in this series, but I think that he's a great character, and I think that his wit is good. So,
well, when it comes to that character, my problem wasn't his wit. I mean, we got a taste of his wit right at the first of The Force Awakens when Kylo Ren was in his face, and he's like, do you talk? Do I talk? With all that stuff on your face, I can't tell.
Apparatus.
I'm happy they need a smart Alecky character, especially with, few year-long spoiler alert, Han Solo's dead now.
Yep.
They need a character like that. I'm fine with that. My problem with Poe wasn't the humor. My problem with the movie wasn't the humor. I think maybe it might have been a little too funny at times. That being said, after sitting through Thor Ragnarok, where everything just had to be funny, which it's a movie I enjoyed, but they were laughing at the wrong times. I think Star Wars utilized its humor very well, because when that movie needed to be serious, it was serious. Yeah, it was a little funnier than a normal Star Wars movie. Yeah. But do you need a little humor sometimes, especially for as dark as parts of that movie got? Yeah, you got to have some laugh time, especially with some of the stuff that we'll be talking about here in a bit.
Right. I thought that the Rey and Kylo Ren storyline really worked. I think that, I don't know if they worked that when they were doing the casting calls and everything, but I think that those two probably have the best chemistry out of any of the characters in this new trilogy. Probably even more so than Rey and Finn. And I'm going to go on to talk about Rey and Finn here a little bit later too, with the stuff that I felt didn't work. But I think that if you want to know my opinion, spoilery, I kind of think that there's going to be some romantic connection between the two of them, and I think that I don't think Kylo's completely lost, but I don't think that he's going to become a good guy and we're going to see him as a good guy throughout the trilogy. I think he's going to wind up sacrificing himself in some sort of way for Rey in the end, but like I said, that's speculation in any means. But I thought that it worked. I know that some people kind of complain about how their like conversations and stuff back and forth was like disjointed, but I thought that it worked fine. And I thought that effect actually was pretty good, if you want to know my opinion on it.
Okay, yeah, the best part of that movie was the whole Rey, Kylo, Luke Skywalker connection. That was by far the best part of that movie, and honestly, that should have been the majority of the movie. I think they could have added to it. I would have rather have seen more scenes with Rey and Luke on the island and then cutaways to Rey and Kylo versus some of the other stuff that we got that we're going to talk about that didn't work. I just think that, Rian Johnson did a really good job at fooling people into thinking, oh, they might be brother and sister or whatever, all the little tropes that, you were thinking might be, being used from the other movies, even though a lot of this movie did feel like Empire and a lot of this movie did feel like Return of the Jedi, kind of a mishmash of the two.
Right.
I think that those three together, their story, that was what captivated me, was the three of them.
Oh, yeah.
For, I would say, 99.9% of the time. Though I kind of found it funny, I think I could have done without Luke drinking the milk.
Okay.
That creeped me out. That being said, kind of funny. I mean, I laughed, but it was, I'm just kind of being jokey. The three of them getting to learn, about Kylo's turn and things like that. The only part of the thing that I really didn't think worked, but it's going to make up for itself in the next movie. They didn't really mention the Knights of Ren other than one throwaway line.
Yeah, hopefully we do touch that.
Well, they said something along the lines of and Kylo took the rest of the
took a bunch of his students.
Yeah, which I'm gonna guess is probably the Knights of Ren. I think they could have focused a little more on them, just a little bit, just so not just one line. I think they needed to do at least add them to one of the scenes or something.
Right.
So that way, you don't feel like they threw away everything from The Force Awakens, because that's one thing that didn't work for me, is I felt they threw away too much from The Force Awakens.
Right.
That this almost felt like a completely different movie. All the little things they set up just seemed like, the closeness between Rey and Finn in the first one. Say what you will about it. From the first one, it was barely here in this one. They needed to not get rid of everything that J.J. Abrams set up.
Right.
But Rian Johnson seemed to kind of go his own direction, and I think there's some things that they're going to need to correct.
Oh, yeah. I think another thing that really worked was I thought that Luke's reunion with different characters really worked well. Like his reunion back with R2 when he first saw him. I felt like that was the closest to original trilogy Luke that we got in there. And Chewie too. I thought that was kind of a humorous bit when he knocks down the door and he's like, "What are you doing here?" and stuff. Yeah. So that was good,
Oh yeah, the way his voice changed. He was dark, brooding Luke whenever he's talking to Rey, and there's R2, and it's like, R2? And it sounded like he was going to go to Tashi Station for some power converters.
Right.
And I like that because, even though, Luke's character seemed to have no hope, seeing those bits of his past, learning that Han had died, being disconnected from the Force, he wouldn't know that. That was one thing I wonder is, did he know? And then, people are complaining, well, you can't disconnect from the Force. You know what? It's the Force and it's a story. They can do whatever they want.
Right. Yeah. That's going to be on the fence category, by the way.
Yeah. Well, but it's just that it was nice for them. That was the way you could still get the old Luke a little bit. Absolutely. Is connecting with those older characters. So, You know, you could see that even though he's this lost character, which, you know, I'm going to come out and say it's probably the best performance that Mark Hamill's ever given.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that he's been bad in other things, and of course his Joker voice is iconic and everything, but as a live action character, this is probably the best thing he's ever done, even though he was afraid of the part.
Right.
So you got to see a little bit of old Luke, a lot of new Luke, and just all the way through the end, you know, we got to see the evolution of what would happen if a Jedi failed, which it was for me was incredible. As a big fan of Luke Skywalker, it was incredible.
Right, and I think I'd like to touch on that a little bit later too, in our deliberation toward the end. Unless you have anything else with worked, I'm ready to move on to something that I feel doesn't work.
When it comes to stuff that worked, you know, like I said, for me, it almost felt like two different movies. So I have a feeling we're going to be the stuff that didn't work. We're going to have some similar things to talk about because, like I said earlier, I wanted the movie to be mostly Rey, Luke, and Kylo, and we're just about to talk about why.
Okay. So my number one thing that I feel didn't work, and I'm so tired of wasted characters.
Oh yeah.
Of course, I have two written here. Number one is Phasma. I don't understand why. Is it just supposed to be? Oh, this is the boss fight that Finn gets to have. Basically,
no.
Is all it is.
Here's what it is. Phasma, and what this is really makes me mad because I love Gwendolyn Christie, and both of us are Game of Thrones fans.
Oh yeah.
You know, so her character Phasma is unfortunately the Boba Fett of this trilogy.
Oh yes, it's unfortunate. And then Snoke, and I kind of have more to talk about Snoke. It's like I feel like essentially in the films at this point is wasted just because and I get why. I mean, it works to progress Kylo's character most definitely, and I also kind of see the defense of, okay, well, we had the original trilogy, and we didn't really know who the Emperor was at the time, or really know anything about him when those films came out. So, maybe through supplemental material, we'll finally learn a little bit more about Snoke. I'm okay with that. But as far as
I'm
I'm
not because I'm sorry, I don't care if it's this day and age. Supplemental material don't count with me.
Right.
Granted, it's a nice way to learn about things, but you need to give me if you're going to introduce these characters
in the film,
and then want to introduce more characters, and then introduce more characters, you got to give me something on those characters to make them count. Just like Phasma, you know, they promised after the first movie that Phasma was going to be a big part of The Last Jedi. Was she a big part of The Last Jedi? No.
Absolutely not.
She looked awesome for 2 seconds when I think Rose shot her with that blaster. She just kind of stood there. And it's like, no, she ended up, like you said, being a boss fight for Finn in a fight that should have been saved for a third movie. Or if they battled in this movie, should have ended in a stalemate or her being a coward or him getting hurt or something to where it would continue later. But no, he busted her helmet. You could see her eye. And as far as we know, she's dead.
Right. And I guess coming back on Snoke, I get your defense there. We shouldn't have to go to supplemental material. You're right. And I would have been all right even more with it if, killing him off's fine, but they could have given who this guy is before they did it. It really doesn't matter. What more they do with him after that, but it's like, let's at least know where he came from. How has this Force sensitive guy been around for so long and didn't come out of the shadows? And what's his background? That's really all we really wanted to know before they kill him off.
Apparently, he is in like one or two of the books that they've released in that the 30 years between Jedi and the Force Awakens. Like I said, I'm fine with that, but if you're gonna act like he's gonna count, make him count. And the fact that he got offed so easily, it would have been amazing if they built him up for 2 movies and killed him off at the beginning of the 3rd movie like that, because you're invested in that character. But I mean, he just seemed like, a Jedi Hugh Hefner was all he really seemed like to me.
Right.
He was dressed in that pimp gold robe, and he was acting kind of like a smart aleck, like he was, the cock with the walk, and then all of a sudden he's,
his hubris kills him immediately.
yeah, all of a sudden he's half on the ground with his tongue sticking out, and he's a joke. And I don't see that character. I mean, I don't think the bad guys can do Force ghosts. Granted, maybe they can. I don't know, but
he's not a Sith, so that's not to say that
right,
he couldn't.
Right, and maybe he will, and maybe he'll haunt Kylo throughout the next movie or something. I don't know. Maybe he's not really dead. Maybe that wasn't really him. I don't know. There's all sorts of things. Maybe they're not going to do anything with him at all.
Yeah, JJ's going to he's going to retcon so many things, I think, in that.
See, my issue with Rian Johnson's movie is that, okay, he had the amazing twists and turns for the 3 characters that the whole movie should have been about. But then he felt like, oh, I have to have twists and turns for everything.
Right.
Okay. So, let's have them go on a usual mission, disobey orders and go on a usual mission. That all it does is make them look stupid. I mean, yes, I get that they're trying to set up Poe to be the leader, but there's different ways to learn that. I mean, he commits mutiny.
Yep.
And he doesn't even get a slap on the wrist. He gets stunned. That's it. Which ends up being a joke, where I get he was demoted, but whatever her name is, Captain Blue Hair, Laura Dern's character, or Purple Hair.
Again, another character I just didn't really care about because...
Oh, I've got a whole spiel on her. I'm sorry, but we'll get to her in a minute. Poe was made to look like an idiot, which, he was even saying, tell me you got a plan. And all she'd have to do is say, look, here's the plan. Just chill. We've got this.
Right. We could have saved 30 minutes of our movie that we didn't need to have.
Well, here's the thing, though. That side mission could have meant something to the mission.
Right.
Maybe they needed a particular something or other to get to that planet, that they needed to send. And I'm sorry, Rose as a character, I get what they're trying to do, trying to make her live up to her sister's name, which, by the way, from what I understand, that wasn't supposed to be her sister at first. That was supposed to be her girlfriend.
Right.
From what I understand, they were talking about having the first gay couple in Star Wars, and it was supposed to be Rose and this girl. And then she was supposed to be fighting for her. Instead, they turned Rose's character into a crappy love story for Finn. We don't need a love story in Star Wars. It's, whenever it happened to Han and Leia, it was natural and it worked.
Yep.
But the hero of the story doesn't have to. Luke, other than in the expanded universe, that doesn't count anymore. He never had anybody, and he doesn't in this universe. And they feel like they had to force that in there when they were practically teasing Finn and Rey in the first movie.
Right.
So, I just feel like they turned that character. That mission could have been a mission for Finn and Poe.
Absolutely.
That's what I was
thinking.
Thinking. Granted, I hated the casino planet. The casino planet felt like something out of the prequel trilogy to me.
Out of the Hunger Games?
Well, it just felt like, something, it just felt off.
And I get that. I guess in defense of it, which you can't really defend it much, but, we haven't really seen, like, the criminal elite as opposed to, like, we've seen the seedy kind of criminal, like, on Tatooine kind of setting, but we haven't seen it in this setting. So, yeah, it is off-putting because it's something we haven't seen before, and it you're right, it really doesn't fit, in my opinion.
Well, I think they could have done it better. One of my biggest problems with the movie was there was too much CG, especially when it comes to creatures.
Yeah, well, when you come off The Force Awakens, which went back to practical pretty well, and then you come to this, it is a little, like, jarring.
Well, but that's just it. I thought they were going to stick with this whole practical thing because, I mean, while they did have some CG, especially with Tarkin and everything in Rogue One, you had still tons of practical effects, and they were still doing ships and things like that and practical effects in this movie. But especially for those creatures, and I mean, all I could think whenever they showed the creatures out they were racing or whatever,
those horse things.
Yeah, all I could think is this is pod racing, right? So I don't know. I think a lot of the CG threw me off on that planet because it just seemed just fake.
Yeah, it was very prequel-ish, and I will agree with that.
There is a way they could have done that, but anyway, that should have been a mission either way for Poe and Finn to become closer friends.
Absolutely.
And if they decided, and a lot of people are like, well, we want, them to be a couple or whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
If you want to set that up, that's fine. But if you're just going to, have them tease like they're going to become the best of friends and then do nothing with them together in the second movie, it just doesn't work. They wanted, all of a sudden it's like we've established these characters, but then all of a sudden we want to tack on new characters. And we're not going to do anything with these ones we established in the first place. Where the original trilogy worked was, they added a few new characters in The Empire Strikes Back, but they still focused on the ones they created in the original movie. And this movie just like, well, forget Phasma, forget Finn. I mean, he got a little time. Forget Poe. Oh, he's just a hothead and an idiot now. And then, I mean, they even said there's going to be a lot of Leia in this one. Barely any Leia in this one.
Right.
And let me ask you this. Do you think that, whenever she went out into space, did you think, holy crap, they killed her off anyway? I didn't think they would.
Yeah, I had that in my head. Let's face it. Everybody did. Come on.
I mean, well, I just didn't know if it's like, well, they already planned to kill her. She wasn't going to be in the next one anyway, because I had a feeling that the third one was going to be her heavy movie, and it was going to be a lot of Leia. But,
it was.
But of course, now they can't do that. But I just feel like they needed to focus on what they created. If they wanted to introduce one or two new characters, that's fine. Make them count, though.
Yeah, Rose was just a waste.
Rose was a waste, but could have been a good character if it would have been just, like I said, she ended up being a shoddy love story for Finn. And then Laura Dern's character, I know why she's in it. Look, and Joe Rogan said this on his podcast, and I've been thinking this for a long time. You could tell the characters that were added into this movie just to fill a quota.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. She was added in because she's a woman. You know what? We've already got strong female characters in here. That should not have been
in here. The main character is one.
Right. And I'm great, and I'm happy for that. And we'll talk about Rey here in a minute. But I think that the character that should have gone down with the ship should have been Akbar. You want to know why? Because Akbar earned that kind of death. He fought in Jedi, he fought in the last movie, and he was killed off screen. They killed a legend off screen. He died in that big explosion where Leia reached out in that magical little force moment. He was killed off screen. He's Admiral Akbar. He has one of the most famous quotes in Star Wars ever.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
Yeah.
It should have been him going down with the ship. But instead, they introduce this new character. They try to make her matter. All of a sudden, it's like, well, she's a protege of Leia. So? And chances are they're going to be like, well, there's a book out there somewhere that explains all about her.
Oh, yeah.
No. You got to give it to me in the movie for it to count. Now, if I like a character in the movie and want to read more about him, then I'll go to the books. But if it's required, that's crap.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of going with the whole Superman getting back on the ship with Leia, I thought, we ought to talk about some other things that happen in these films that are kind of controversial. So, I mean, I don't know how you feel about this, but I know there's a lot of argument now. Like, people are kind of clearing about, okay, well, now what can the Force do? Because, I mean, we've got, it can make you survive in space for however long. You could be a Force ghost and summon lightning to burn something down. Part of me feels like while some of that stuff kind of upsets me, but it's also like, well, it's at the mercy of people that are writing this now. I mean, especially now that George Lucas doesn't really have his foot in it like he used to. I mean, yeah, it's really at the mercy of what these writers are going to say. So, I mean, people kind of have to get used to, yeah, they're going to put things in there that didn't exist before, and some of it's going to upset you.
Well, here's what I think about the Force. First of all, I'm just happy it's not midichlorians anymore.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The Force is a living, growing thing. It's going to have to adapt. It's going to have to grow. Because if it's just, well, we can do Force lightning and we can do Force pushes and Force chokes, it's just boring. I mean, you know, we still like seeing it. I mean, one of my favorite parts of Rogue One is still people hate it, but, I mean, Anakin Skywalker was always a smart aleck, and having Darth Vader say, you know, you're choking on your aspirations, that cracked me up.
Yeah.
You know, and people act like he never made a joke before. He made jokes all throughout Star Wars about whenever he was killing somebody, you know, because that's who Anakin Skywalker was.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Exactly. That's hilarious. And I thought that was funny, but that's just it. The Force has to grow. It has to adapt. When it comes to the Force lightning burning down the little temple or whatever, apparently, and this is something I read today, apparently the books weren't in there. That was an illusion.
No, they weren't, because if you look later,
Ray stole them.
Ray took them. Yep.
Right. So that was just Yoda showing Luke something. It may not have been real. Right. So, you know, who's to say someone that was that powerful in the Force couldn't do that? You know what I mean? The Force is this living being thing, you know, and who's to say they can't do that? Who's to say that a Jedi can't become so powerful they can project their image throughout the galaxy?
Right. It'll kill you, but you can do it.
Think about it. Luke was focusing for how long on that island? Granted, they said he was away from the Force or whatever, but who's to say he didn't learn that stuff? Right. You know, who's to say he just thought he would try it? Because they did, of course, tease you with yet another Rian Johnson twist, because he had so many twists in this movie, or possible twists. They showed the X-Wing in the water, and of course you thought, oh, he's going to rise that up and travel.
Right.
You know, but no, they had Luke do something new and different and cool with the Force. Granted, the way they did it, as much as I liked it, it didn't. Everything fell off because of the way he looked.
Yeah, they could have done that differently.
Because the first thing I thought when he showed up and talked to Leia was, I thought of Amazing Spider-Man 2, when Electro went from point A to point B within 10 minutes, and he all of a sudden had a new costume with logos on it and everything. It's like, wait a minute, when did Luke have time to get a haircut? You know, because all of a sudden his beard's different.
Why is he carrying the blue lightsaber?
But then the more you think about it, though, he looked the way he looked the last time he saw Kylo Ren.
Right.
But if that's just it, it's a catch-22, because he was doing that to fool Kylo Ren. He was doing that to piss him off, because, you know, of course we knew the lightsaber was busted, because I'm like, wait a minute, wouldn't he have a green lightsaber? It's like, something is off here.
Right.
You know, but then if you think about it, he was doing that to anger Kylo Ren. This is the way he saw him last. Plus he has Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber.
Oh, to mess with him. Yeah.
To mess with him, right? That being said, that was to fool that character, but of course it's not going to fool the audience, because we just saw him 10 minutes earlier with gray hair, and we hadn't even seen the green lightsaber except in a flashback. So we knew something was off. I'm fine with that in the end. I wasn't fine with it at first, but I'm fine with it now, because the motivations were good, because he was doing that to mess with Kylo's head. Yeah. You know, so I'm cool with that. And with him being able to do that with the Force, I say, why not? Yeah.
Now, I mean, going back on, we're talking about Luke here. Another thing that I kind of see a lot of people getting angry about is that this is not my Luke. This Luke wouldn't do this and things like that. And this Luke is just not BA enough and things like that. And in my opinion, I mean, how BA would Luke be? I mean, I get it. I mean, the fanboy in me would love to have seen him actually fight with the lightsaber. But, I mean, he's been away from lightsaber training probably for a long time. how awesome with the lightsaber was Luke Skywalker ever going to be, if you really think about it? Considering the fact that there wasn't really, like, the Sith, except for, I mean, he had Darth Vader to have to fight, but Darth Vader was already, like, you know, half crippled anyway. After that was done, there was nobody really strong enough in the Force as his peer that he could learn to lightsaber fight well enough with. And you don't... They make the argument you could learn it naturally, but I don't feel like... No, that's something you have to learn by actually sparring with somebody. And you're not going to spar with anybody that's not quite at your level or is learning from you. So, I don't know. I don't think he would have been a great saber fighter to start with. But as far as BA enough, I mean, if you could project yourself from halfway across a galaxy, I think you've proven yourself.
Yeah, there's two sides of that argument. I mean, just look to Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader. I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi could barely swing that lightsaber.
Right.
That being said, look at Yoda. You know, Yoda was hundreds of years old and could do, you know, flippity-doos. You know,
again,
and
though,
look at
plenty of practice.
the Emperor. Right, and that's just it. That was in the time of
Their
you know
prime.
when they were fighting with that stuff the whole time. I mean, it was the Jedi Council and all that stuff. But then you look at, like I said, you look at Obi-Wan, where he'd been, you know, protecting Luke for 20 years on Tatooine. So, I mean, chances are he didn't fight too much with that lightsaber, if at all, because, you know, if he flashed that thing and someone saw it, you know.
He's a dead man.
He's a dead man, or Luke's dead, or
Yep.
whatever, you know, because he's got to protect him. I mean, the only time we know he's flashed it in canon was in the show Rebels, whenever Darth Maul tracked him down.
Yep.
So, and it was only up for a few minutes in the middle of nowhere,
Yep.
you know. So, and the only other person that saw it was Ezra Bridger, but that's another story. So, you know, I have no issue with Luke not fighting. Now, yes, I want to see it too, but I definitely got the Luke I wanted because, I mean, if we learned in The Force Awakens that he tried to train Kylo Ren and failed.
Yep.
How heavy would that weigh on Luke Skywalker, who, I mean, he watched his masters die. He had to practically kill his father, you know, even though, I mean, yes, technically he didn't, but he fought his dad,
Yep.
you know, and then he failed again.
Yep.
It broke him.
Absolutely.
We got broken Luke Skywalker, and that's why those glimpses of old Luke were so important, because it's like we know there's a hero in there,
Right.
but he's down, he's broken, he's, you know, not himself, and he has to find himself again. And granted, he could have, you know, raised that X-wing and flew there and fought himself, but maybe there wasn't time. I don't know technically how far he was away. He did everything he could to help his friends escape instead of, you know, going there and maybe not even been able to do anything against Kylo Ren, who granted wasn't the most experienced fighter, because that's one thing I liked about The Force Awakens was Kylo Ren had only had a little bit of training with Luke, and that was about it.
Right.
He had probably a little training with Snoke, but he was an incomplete because, of course, at the end, Snoke was like, I need to complete his training, because he just relied on, well, I'm practically the only one that has any force powers anymore. You know, I can live on this. Well, no. And then all of a sudden, you know, The Force Awakens,
Yep.
you know, and then he has to become more of a, you know, skilled in the whatever side of the Force. But having, you know, Luke do this whole, you know, broken thing was what I wanted to see. So yes, like I said, I would like to see cool Luke fighting off tons of people or whatever, like Mace Windu style, like on that cartoon of the Clone Wars.
Yep.
You know, but you know what? Those days are past him. He was in the mentor role. He was in the Yoda role, you know, which, that being said, him doing what he did, needing to find that inner hero again and make that sacrifice, is exactly the Luke we needed.
Yep, I think so. I think that the broken Luke was definitely what we needed. I guess moving on to the next one that people kind of have made a big deal out of is Rey's lineage. To me, I really don't... it really doesn't matter. I mean, I get it. sometimes I don't know. I'm kind of intrigued by the idea that, guess what? You don't have to be tied to some Jedi lineage to be powerful, I mean, yeah, it just, she happened to just be the child of some nobodies that we know of at this point. It's not to say they couldn't retcon it, but just the idea that, hey, you have this awaken in you and now you have to work with it. I don't know. I think it's good just because the fact that now we're not tied to, and I get it. I mean, we're not tied to the Skywalker storyline, which is what they're trying to get away from for this new trilogy. And I guess he was laying the groundwork for that, of course. But I don't feel you need to be tied to some kind of family of Jedi to be able to be a good Jedi. So.
Well, if they keep it that way, I'm fine with it. That being said, that goes into the whole let's not connect it to something we did in The Force Awakens. Why go to all the trouble to have Obi-Wan's voice involved in that flash sequence whenever she grabbed the lightsaber? I feel like something was missing there, that they did that whole thing with that lightsaber and there's no connection. Now, I'm not saying I want her to be a Skywalker. I don't. That would have been the dumbest thing ever.
Right.
But my hope was that she was going to be a Kenobi, because in the Clone Wars, Kenobi did have a love interest whenever he was a Padawan.
Okay.
With the Princess of Mandalore, which is Boba Fett's home planet.
Yep.
Well, I'm sorry, whatever, Jango Fett's home planet, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, but by lineage, yes, Boba Fett.
And whenever he was a Padawan, he almost left the Jedi Order to be with her, but since she was a princess, he couldn't be with her. And he even told her before she died that, I loved you and I would have left everything for you if we could have, and it could be a grandchild thing or a great grandchild. I mean, I haven't done the math, but they could have had a baby in secret that he didn't know about. Things like that they could have sent off because if they found out she had a child, it would ruin the royal family or whatever. I know that's a big stretch, but if you want to connect her to someone, that's who I'd connect her to. I hated the Palpatine idea.
Yeah.
Like she was a Palpatine. I didn't want to see that. I definitely didn't want to see her be a Skywalker, though. So if they do keep it as it's just, your parents were nothing, that's fine. That being said, it's of course intriguing that the person that told her that could just be lying to her face.
Well,
just to twist her will, So that part for me is intriguing. It may be nothing, it may be something. I'm fine with that.
Right. Well, and what you said about that, like, he may not be lying at all. I mean, what you were just saying about your story, if this person would have had a kid in secret and they would have sent that kid off, nobody would have known that, hey, there's Jedi lineage there. So very well, these junkies that were Rey's parents could come from that somehow because they were dumped off somewhere already anyway. So, I mean, let's just to say that there's not a possibility still. I mean, J.J. Abrams could fix whatever he wants to with Episode 9. So, I mean, we're there, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. I mean, these junkers that gave her away, their parents could have been, somebody, and then they became nothing. And, I mean, there's all sorts of things there. Like I said, though, I would be fine if they left it at nothing because part of this movie's idea is legends can come from anywhere. Right. So it plays into that, too. That being said, like I said, it's just intriguing to me that it could be a lie. So I'm fine with either way, just as long as if they do something with it, it doesn't become a Skywalker or it doesn't become, like I said, it's got to be kind of an offshoot of something, not, it's a Palpatine or it's a, an Obi-Wan would be fine because there's twists and turns there. It can't just be something that's straightforward. A lot of people were like, she was a long lost baby of Han, like he had a child because apparently in the comics somewhere, these new comics, he used to have a wife, things like another wife. So, I mean, there's things like that too. So, I just don't want to see it be something that ties in that neatly. If they're gonna do something with it.
Right. Absolutely. I think it is intriguing to see what they're going to do with the next trilogy, and I guess that could actually segue us into the next section of Star Wars post the Disney acquisition. I guess the number one question, they've had it for 5 going on 6 years now. I don't know about you, but I don't know. I feel like we're kind of at a stalemate as to whether it's working so far. I thought 7 and 8 were pretty good films, and I think they're definitely better than prequels. Rogue One, to me, and I know that some people disagree with me, but I feel like it was kind of an average at best film. As a film itself, okay, but like if you throw that Star Wars name on it, I'm just kind of like, it doesn't feel like a Star Wars film, and I know they did that on purpose. But and then we'll talk about Solo here in a minute. But what are your thoughts as far as how it's working so far?
For the most part, I really liked Rogue One. I had issues with it. I felt like they had to cram in some cameos and things like that.
Yeah.
I think they should have just picked one and done that. I think, maybe the R2 C3PO thing was the only thing. Like just have them running around the base or something. Or something like that. I even really liked the one where they had the criminal from Tatooine.
Yeah.
That one was kind of funny to me. I mean, see, for me, Rogue One, though, I felt they had too many characters. That was my big problem with that movie. As much as I liked Baz, as a character, he was kind of unnecessary. As much as, I wasn't a big fan of the pilot.
Oh,
I think that, yeah, I think that should have been, Jen. I think she just should have just been an Imperial pilot.
Sure.
I would, and that you could have just tied those two roles together. So, they could have tidied up that movie. The problems I had with that movie was them trying to use the CG to create Tarkin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Though I thought it worked okay. The way I thought they were going to do it was they were just going to show his reflection in the glass.
And I think that would have worked really well.
And then I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. Okay, I get what they're doing. Then all of a sudden he turns around. He's walking. He's talking. He's circling characters.
And then went too far.
And then he's in another scene. And then he's walking. He's talking. He's making demands. There was too much of that.
Well,
the Leia scene at the end.
That was off-putting too.
I think they could have done that a little better too. Maybe showed like just part of her face or something. They could have gotten away with it. So the problems I have with that movie, I'm curious about what they took out of that movie because, there's scenes of them, running with the plans down a beach.
Yeah.
I'm curious where that came from, instead of them transmitting the plans. I know that the scene where Jen is walking that pathway and the TIE fighter comes up, that was just for the trailer. They've come out and admitted that didn't even happen.
Right.
So I'm curious of that stuff, but all in all, I really like that movie because, granted, when the best character in your movie is K2SO,
oh yeah,
finally a droid takes center stage. I was so excited, and the fact that he sacrificed himself first, kind of set the tone for that whole final part.
Yeah.
I like seeing that there was someone that was, believed in the Force but not a Force user. Just there was all sorts of characters here and there. They could have tightened up that movie. I really liked the movie. Like I said, there's definitely problems with it.
Well, maybe I just need to sit and just kind of give it another chance too, because it's been a while since I've seen it, and I think I've only saw it all the way through the one time in the theater. So that's part of my problem too, is not really giving it the chance that I probably need to. Also,
well, here's the thing though. Think about it. We had 7 Star Wars movies, all with similar themes. All having the crawl, all having the John Williams music,
yep,
all having those staples that weren't in Rogue One. There was no crawl. They kind of used some of Williams' themes here and there, but mostly it was an original score.
Yep.
So yeah, it was definitely very off-putting. That being said, I was kind of used to that stuff because I watched Rebels. I watched the Clone Wars.
Sure.
I mean, I think I was used to the idea already of it's not the movies we know, because I had seen other things like it. So I was okay with it, but I understand why people were off-put by that movie. I mean, some of it was kind of too neat and tidy for, I mean, I had an idea that, that the Death Star's flaw was put there on purpose and things like that. Some of that stuff was a little too neat and tidy, but all in all, as a movie, I really enjoyed it. As a Star Wars story or whatever, I don't think it was a bad start. That being said, I'm looking forward to them doing Star Wars stories that don't really tie into the Skywalker saga.
Okay.
So that's what I'm looking forward to, and we'll get to that in a minute because we're going to be talking about Solo. That's about all I got to say about Rogue One. I like the movie. It's flawed, but I think they did a good job with it.
Right. I think the biggest thing that I'm kind of disappointed with once Disney's taken it over is kind of, I mean, when Lucas was doing it in Lucasfilm, we had the LucasArts division doing the games and stuff, and I feel like we're kind of lacking in that department since Disney's taken it over. I know that a lot of people are complaining about Battlefront 2 because it's a lot of pay to play type stuff going on with that. I haven't really touched either of the new Battlefront games since they've taken over, but
I refuse.
Yeah, I'm not going to pay to play. I hate that.
In this day and age, I can watch people on YouTube play the story.
Right.
So I don't want to play it that bad. I'll let someone else spend the money, and I'll just watch it on YouTube.
Yep, absolutely. No, but I mean, I don't know, and it's not just Star Wars too, because I think LucasArts had a lot of good side stuff too. They had the Maniac Mansion and Day of the Tentacle series and stuff like that too. That was kind of fun point and click adventures, but that's a whole different subject. I guess as far as other post Disney stuff, I think they're doing fine. I know that you really love Rebels. I really need to start watching that. Do you need to really watch Clone Wars first, though? Because, I mean, I know there's a lot of tie-ins with that.
It helps because some of the characters from Clone Wars do show up. Granted, the art style is completely different between the two, but some of the characters, like an old clone, shows up.
Well, I know, Ahsoka Tano is a big
Ahsoka Tano shows back up, and the best episode of Rebels involves her finally meeting up with Anakin again, which I'm gonna admit it. I'm a dude, and I'm a sensitive dude when it comes to Star Wars, and their fight and all the scenes of them together made me cry.
Yeah,
because it was that emotional. Because you were once you found out she was still around, you're like, oh wow, and Darth Vader's in this. They're gonna meet up. It helps to watch Clone Wars. You don't have to. You could probably just read up on it.
Sure.
But Clone Wars, for the most part, is a really good show. So, I mean, it's worth checking out. It's better than that movie that you and I went and watched.
Oh, yeah.
Granted, that movie, in the context of the show, works because it's like 3 episodes of the show.
Right.
And it's not even the first 3 episodes.
Right.
That show is so far out of order. You have to watch them in a specific order, and there's lists online. I watch them in the order they're supposed to, and everything makes sense if you do that. So
right. So, I guess going back, would you say that the full-on Clone Wars series was better, or the series of shorts that they had made beforehand? You know which ones I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think they both have their place. Granted, they took some of the stuff from those animated shorts and added them to the Clone Wars. I'm having trouble remembering that bald Sith apprentice name, that girl that wielded the two.
Ventress?
Yeah, Ventress, that's it. She shows up in Clone Wars. So I mean
knew that. Yeah.
So there's things that link up together. At as a complete story, I think that the longer Clone Wars is better because, you've got, 6 seasons?
Yeah.
Counting the Netflix one, which the last season's okay, I guess. There's some good stories in it. The best one being about a clone discovering the Order 66 chip and them eliminating him. That was a great story. They cover Force ghosts and things like that in that season. They're kind of just tying up all the loose ends. But I heard an interesting theory the other day about the 2 different series where they were saying that the shorts all put together were propaganda films.
Okay.
For support the troops, kind of thing.
Okay.
Whereas in the Clone Wars cartoon was the real story, which I thought that was kind of a neat take on it because they did start those animated shorts with, having an announcer's voice, saying, and this is what's happening, your clone troopers are doing this, it almost felt like Starship Troopers in a way. So I kind of like to look at it that way. I think they both have their place. But as a complete story, I honestly think the longer Clone Wars is better because you get to learn, about Darth Maul's survival. You get to see him change. He's by far one of the best things that came out of the Clone Wars.
Oh,
because
yeah.
then that entered into Rebels, and he had such a great arc. It was fantastic, and one of the best fights in any of the cartoons is Darth Maul, his brother, which he didn't even know he had, fighting the Emperor, which was pretty fantastic. So there's a lot of good things to come from those. I mean, I suggest watching them all because though there's some missteps here and there between like Clone Wars and even Rebels had, though as it's good, it's great cartoon, but it has a couple episodes here and there you can do without. But as a whole, all of it's worth watching and all of it's canon. So hopefully some of that stuff actually matters later.
Yeah, I'll need to binge it at some point. But I guess moving on to the next biggest thing as far as Star Wars post Disney, we got another movie coming up in just a few months. Solo, a Star Wars story. Man, this thing has been just a production train wreck.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's been a roller coaster ride, just the entire way, and people weren't too excited about it when they first heard about it.
Right. So and they're already apparently thinking that this thing is going to be a flop anyway. Which it's funny because like they had announced that they had changed like the dates when Deadpool 2 was going to come out based on Solo, which is funny because it's like I feel like I don't know. Part of me feels like they were saying like, oh, they don't want them to conflict with each other or whatever, but I think they're probably doing it more on the part of Solo because more people would end up going to see Deadpool 2 than it. So
yeah. Well, they pushed Deadpool back 2 weeks for some other reason. That was a Fox thing. Because Solo is like the week before now, or a week or two before Deadpool now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I took some vacation for both of them, so I'm trying to remember the dates. But because I'm gonna probably be seeing both of those a little early. My issues with Solo are just I'm tired of seeing prequels of known characters. I mean, you saw the marketing for Rogue One. They never use that word prequel. Because prequel is like a 4-letter word in Star Wars language.
Oh, yes.
And this is by far a prequel.
Oh, yeah.
It's honestly an unnecessary prequel. I mean, there's plenty of Legends books out there that tell the origin of Han Solo and everything. Yep. There's a great trilogy series out there that talks about, how he used to be in the Empire and or an Empire trainee and how he met Chewie and Lando and all that stuff. And we're going to get that all in one movie.
Yeah.
And the fact that, I don't know if you heard this, they fired Lord and Miller because the first cut of the movie reminded Disney of, get this, Ace Ventura.
Wow.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry, Han Solo has his silly moments.
Not like that.
but I don't want to see an alrighty then Han Solo. You know, Han, get on the Millennium Falcon. Alrighty then. You know, no. This thing has been a mess from the get-go. I mean, I think what they've tried to patch the wound as much as they can. I mean, it sounds like they had to refilm at least half the movie.
Oh yeah.
Of course, they brought in Ron Howard. It's like, well, we better get a reliable name that people trust. So get Opie, right?
Yep.
And then another thing they announced the other day was, though he's not doing the entire score, they're having John Williams write the Solo theme. So he's going to write like the main theme for Solo. So I mean, they're doing everything they can to,
patch it up.
gain people's confidence in this movie. But that's just it. Whenever they started announcing these Star Wars stories, like, well, we're going to do a Boba Fett, we're going to do a Han Solo, we're going to do a Obi-Wan, and maybe a Yoda. Now, the only one I want to see is Obi-Wan, because, and we can talk about that in a second, because the Golden Globes gave up a little bit on that. I don't want to see the Han Solo origin story. I don't need to. He's a scruffy nerf herder that shot first. That's all I need to know.
Right.
I don't need to. I mean, will I want to watch it? Yes. Am I going to watch it? Yes. Do we need it? No.
No, we don't.
Not at all. 100% no.
Right. Absolutely. Another big concern too is, like, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that this kid had to have a dialogue coach with him the entire time they were shooting this movie, because he just wasn't getting it, man. Which is really concerning.
I can never remember the dude's name.
Alden Emmerich or something to that.
And even when I do remember it, I say it wrong.
Well, the thing that gets me is, like, they had such a good short list. I mean, they had like names like Taron Egerton on this thing. Why did they not get him? He's great in Kingsman. He would have been good in this.
I mean, there was a few people I wouldn't have mind seeing. The fact that if we have to have it, I mean, this dude can be good. I've seen him in other movies, and he can be good. It wasn't him that was my issue with this movie, but you never know. After we see it, it might be. There's things about it that I like, but I just feel like they're going to try to cram in everything they can about Han Solo. We're going to see Greedo, and who knows what they're going to do with him.
Get some Jabba the Hutt in there.
We're gonna see Jabba the Hutt, probably Boba Fett.
It's gonna be end with him, like, doing his dump of whatever cargo it was for Jabba or something like that, which is funny because it's like that happened right before the first move, before episode 4.
See, I don't think they're going to go that far. They better not go that far.
I bet you they will, considering as close they wanted to tie episode 4 to Rogue One. Guarantee you they'll do that.
See, I have this bad feeling. I got a bad feeling about this. I have this feeling that the last scene we're gonna see is them walk into Mos Eisley Cantina.
Oh, that'd be even worse.
And that's gonna make me sad, because, I mean, I just feel like
to a CG Obi-Wan and Luke Skywalker.
Well, no, it'd just be them walking in, and they're gonna make some quip about it being a place of scum and villainy. Who knows? I don't want it to even go that far. It might. I just have so many issues with the idea of this movie that, whenever they said we were going to do a bunch of side Star Wars movies, the first thing I thought was, and of course I thought this with Rian Johnson too, even though he's kind of confirmed he's not doing it, I wanted to see like Knights of the Old Republic.
Oh yeah.
Or, and we can kind of move into this. The Rian Johnson movies I want to see is about crime. I want to see bounty hunters with him.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, think of the movie Looper.
I mean, even a Boba Fett movie would work in that sense. I mean, granted, yeah, it could be a bounty hunter just related movie, but he could be the biggest part of it, of course. But
well, see, I mean, and kind of, sidebar to that, one of the games that LucasArts was going to make, they were going to make that Boba Fett game, man, that 1313 or whatever it was called. It was supposed to be like the Boba Fett game. You know, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a Boba Fett movie. I kind of still would rather be someone else. You know, maybe create a new character that, you know, can, you know, go along with these other characters. I mean,
it could
come
be
on.
any of those bounty hunters. It could be like what's that? The droid one, IG-88, I think.
Oh, yeah, I love that guy. My boy is Bosk. I want to see more Bosk.
Yes.
You know, I read a book about him and Ezra Bridger that happened like right before Rebels starts, and it's like I want more Bosk, you know, because he's cool. But no, there's so many ideas they could go with, and I'm just afraid they're gonna milk. Well, these are the characters, you know, so this is what we're gonna do.
Well, when the games sell tickets, that's what they're gonna do, you know.
Yeah, and that's just it. The only one I want to see is Obi-Wan, because there's 20 years you can play with there. And think about this. Unless you got anything more on Solo, are we both in agreement that this movie shouldn't even happen?
Yeah, pretty much.
But of course, we're also in agreement that we're Star Wars nuts and we're going to see it anyway.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to the Obi-Wan, their possible Obi-Wan movie, apparently at the Golden Globes, reporters asked Ewan McGregor, who won for Fargo, if I'm not mistaken. They asked him about the Obi-Wan movie because apparently he was sporting a very Obi-Wan beard.
Oh, yeah, he looked very Obi-Wan.
I've got a feeling that one's getting announced.
Oh, won't be any time.
So, granted, I don't think that'll be Rian Johnson's trilogy. I think they're just going to let him play around.
No.
But could we get an Obi-Wan movie? Yeah. Do I want to see that one? Yeah, because, I mean, if you've got... And granted, I don't want to see 10-year-old Luke, you know, moving rocks by accident, you know, or whatever. But, you know, what they did in Rebels was whenever they had the fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul was so close to getting to Luke. He didn't even know it, but he was so close to getting to Luke that, of course, Obi-Wan had to act because he was there to protect him.
Right.
And the last thing you see at the end of that season is Obi-Wan riding up on one of them big lizards, and you see Luke, you know, the part where Aunt Beru's like, Luke, you know, and he runs to the house.
Right.
You see, that's what you see. You just see it from far away from Obi-Wan's perspective. I mean, there could be something about, you know, him just needing to protect Luke, you know, but then again, who knows if they're going to do it. He may be getting ready to do something Obi-Wan for the next Star Wars movie. You never know.
Yeah, he could be a Force ghost, so show up somewhere in there, you know. Especially if your theory's right about him being related to Rey.
Yeah, that's just it. I have a feeling that, well, granted, I mean, even if it's not, you know, we're going to get Luke Force Ghost in the next one.
Oh, yes. You know we are.
And of course, you know, he shaved off his beard, right? I guess he like made a big deal about shaving off his beard after the movie, you know, came out. So we're going to see young Luke or youngish Luke as a Force Ghost next time, I think, without a beard and everything. But anyway, that's back to The Last Jedi. For an Obi-Wan movie, I don't know what I'd want to see, but that's the only plausible one I want to see.
It has to be between episodes 3 and 4, of course.
Yeah, it's just I don't want to see if we're going to get these original Star Wars stories expanded a little bit. If you're going to use a known character, make it a lesser known character. You know, not even a Boba Fett. Like I said, the movie I want to see most is a bounty hunter movie.
Kit Fisto, the movie.
Well, the one that I've honestly want to see, granted we don't know, with Rebels, we don't know the fate of Ahsoka. I want to see an Ahsoka Tano movie.
Yeah.
Rosario Dawson has expressed interest in playing Ahsoka Tano, which, you know how I feel about me some Rosario Dawson.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, I want to see that. So there's many ideas you could do. As I like to say, it's a big galaxy. Absolutely. Do something with it.
I guess, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to see whatever else Disney does with it. I guess my biggest thing that I'm excited about what Disney's doing with it right now, I'll be seeing this probably in a couple years, as much of a Disney file as I am, but the Galaxy's Edge coming up in Disneyland and Disney's Hollywood Studios. Oh man, So ready to go see that sometime soon, whenever it comes out. And they're also doing like a themed resort too, which is supposed to be like completely immersive. I don't know if I'm gonna go that far. I can't LARP all week long, you know.
I would. Man, I would walk into that cantina every day and just sit in that corner table with my blaster ready, listen to I would listen to that all day. I like that. That's one thing I like about Disney having a hold of this. It went as far as it was going to go with Lucas.
Right.
Lucas was, spinning his tires. Even with the Clone Wars, as good as the Clone Wars is, you could tell he kind of didn't know where he wanted to go with it. Apparently he had ideas for the next episodes, but apparently they didn't even involve Luke, Leia, and Han, right? Yep. And we never got closure on those stories. I like the fact that Disney took the reins, got a hold of J.J. Abrams, who's a Star Wars guy.
Yep.
And was like saying, look, we need closure to these stories. Yes, we need to advance the story, but we need closure for these characters. The fans deserve it. So That's why, yes, everyone can say, well, Disney's just doing this to get rich. Yes, they are.
Yep. But they're also spending a lot of money to do it, too.
But that's just it. They're also giving the people what they desire. So if they make a little money doing that, by little, I mean a lot, then that's fine with me. As long as they're giving us good content, they can make all the money they want off of it.
Right, absolutely. And I guess that's a clear thought. It's like when you have a company like Disney, they can just chuck money at it, and they can and they're going to throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks with some of this stuff. But, in the end, it's Star Wars. People are going to go see it. People have loved it for, longer than both of us have been alive. Maybe. I don't know. I know it's longer than I've been alive.
My mom was pregnant with me, and she took my brother to go see the first Star Wars movie at a drive-in.
Okay.
So, and apparently it got rained out. But I like to imagine it was embedded into my DNA that day.
Well, there you go.
Because but that being said, the first movie of Star Wars that I saw in the theater was Return of the Jedi. But yes, it has been ingrained in me since the beginning. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it.
Parents are good for that, man. That's what they do.
Yeah.
A little side note when we're talking about Disney and nostalgia in that age. Have you watched the Toys That Made Us series yet on Netflix that just came out?
It's in my queue. It's on that proverbial list, as I like to say.
Yeah, the Star Wars episode is really good. I've watched all four. The Barbie episode didn't tone with me very well, just because I'm a dude. I didn't play Barbies when I was in the 80s. So, but the He-Man, the G.I. Joe, and the Star Wars episode are really good. I don't know if I could watch it, because I don't know if I'd get depressed about I had all that stuff. You know,
right? I had that, and I should be a millionaire right now. But instead, my parents sold it at a rummage sale for 25 cents a bag.
Right after I ripped the arms off of somebody or something like that.
Hey, man, mixing and matching GI Joes is an art form. Yes. I just have to say that.
Terrible action figures you don't like make really good, firecracker practice. But anyway, now I'm sounding like Sid from Toy Story. But anyway, I digress. Any closing thoughts on Star Wars for you, Gino?
I want Disney to take chances. I have a feeling that having Rian Johnson do a trilogy is them taking chances. I think they need to take more chances on these Star Wars stories, because if they just keep giving us side stories of characters we technically already know, then what's the point other than making money? That being said, I think they're in the right direction by bringing back JJ for episode 9. I kind of wished he would have done all of them, so there'd be one continuous theme. That being said, I also like the fact that they are taking a few chances on it. I think they need to keep doing it. And the last thing I'll say is about Disney and Star Wars is now that they bought Fox, next Christmas I better have the original untouched trilogy on Blu-ray under my tree.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's it for now. You want to go ahead and plug your channel, man?
Yeah, if you want to find me, you can find me on the Reel Geno on YouTube. I do movie reviews. I have the Punisher retrospective. I do Netflix and Chance, which is I basically have a randomizer, and whatever it pops up movie-wise, I have to watch and review. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And also I do a podcast called Get on the Mic. I try to do it every Friday or Saturday. So if you like that kind of stuff, make sure to subscribe to the Reel Geno on YouTube.
Yeah. And you can find me, guys. You can find me at HeiseNerd. That is with one N. And my channel, I'm going to be I do a lot of Let's Plays, live streams, and I also have my own weekly podcast, HeiseNerd Speaks, where I kind of talk about some gaming and tech things, different pop culture things that have gone on during the week and my thoughts. Just find me there. Also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/HeiseNerd1.
Well, guys, that's going to do it all for this week on GeekBQ Podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed our very long discussion, and I hope you guys will tune back in 2 weeks. We're working on what's going to be on the next show. Also, keep tuned on both our YouTube channels. I think we're going to be trying to work on some projects together as well. We've discussed it off air a little here and there. Also, keep tuned in because soon we have an announcement to make about how you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and things like that in podcast form. We're still working out all the details, so keep tuned for that. That's going to do it all for this bye week of the GB3 Podcast. Everybody, have a great day.
See you later.